We are ready to go here on this Tuesday morning, here on the Auburn Blitz podcast, whatever you want to call it, here on this Tuesday morning. Glad that you joined us here. And as you will continue to join us, we appreciate that. We'll say that first and foremost. Man, what a busy day yesterday was. We jumped on a little bit earlier than normal. I got some text messages from some people out there saying, kind of caught the tail end of you. We had a busy day yesterday, so we had to get going. But we're glad to have Jason Caldwell join us starting on Mondays now, and that'll usually be around 8 o'clock. It won't start around 7:40 like we did yesterday. So getting a little bit early start here on Tuesdays and Thursdays as well, but generally around the 8 o'clock. So just kind of sending that message out there. Randy, good to see you this morning, and a lot to dive into here. I do want to thank a lot of our partners here on the program, especially Sensa Green, jumping on board with us, being one of the first ones to do that here on the Auburn Blitz podcast. For air that's cool and clean, call on Sensa Green. They are the carrier experts here in the state of Alabama, and you will want to call on them if you need a new unit, complete installs. They handle all of that. So make sure you call on Sensa Green. They are the best around. And then Scout Program Management, a full-service construction management firm located in Birmingham, Alabama, but they serve all over. They've got construction projects and projects they are managing all over the state of Alabama right now, and a lot of them up for bid, too, that are coming up. So if you have the need for somebody to head up your project from start to finish, Scout Program Management is the company to do that. And then also we'll add in bunkers a little bit later on in Sign Source and Lee Apparel, so stay tuned for that, Randy. I'll say this about bunkers. Have you watched the TGL on ESPN, the golf league?
No, I haven't.
Unbelievable, man. I'll talk some more about that a little bit later on, but you talk about a unique spin to golf. I'm in on that. That was one of the coolest things I've watched. So if you haven't seen that yet, and I think it's growing in popularity big time, but we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. But yeah, you need to watch that. You team up in Tiger Woods, and they're different teams from different cities and different areas, and they play virtual golf in an arena. And I mean, there's a green there, but then they tee off and they hit their iron shots into a screen. It's a virtual course, and then they go over to the green and they actually putt and chip to see who wins the hole. It's unbelievable, and it's got rules. You can throw flags. I mean, it's crazy, man.
Well, not knowing all that goes on with the simulcasting and everything that goes in there, but there's so many online games now, Brett, that you can play against people all over the world. You and I grew up in an era where we didn't have that. I'm kind of glad that we did. It made us invite our friends over to the house rather than just jumping online to play. Right. A lot of spend the night parties that were involved during our era just to get in front of a console and play Nintendo or whatever it was that you were into at that time. That was what we were into. I know that for a lot of our 80s and early 90s era kids. But it's a little bit different now, man. And look, that's the beauty of bunkers, and I'll go ahead and take this time to say that. You know, they're on the cutting edge when it comes to the simulations that you can go in and play, not only with golf, but the other ones that they have there at Bunkers. It's on West Glen and Auburn. You'll be knocked back on how nice the interior of this restaurant / bar / place that you can go play all kinds of sports are. So stop by Bunkers on West Glen. They got great parking underneath. I think 50 spots, so you don't have to worry about running up and down downtown Auburn looking for a parking spot. They've got their own parking underneath in the backside of it. So go see our good friends at Bunkers.
Man, I was ready to go to Bunkers last night after watching that. Justin said the green has a bunch of motors. Yeah, I was going to talk about that a little bit later. It has a bunch of motors and crazy technology that it can change the surface of the green to make the hole like the hole they're actually virtually playing on. It's crazy, but it's wild because fans can watch from an arena, and the golfers stay right there in that area, and you can yell. And they playing music while they're putting. I mean, it's crazy, man. It's like going to a football or basketball game, but except you're playing golf. And yeah, you need to check it out. You'll love it. You'll love it. So, all right, we love it here on the Auburn Blitz podcast. Again, we're continuing to grow. We appreciate it. Getting ever so close to that 600 mark. So we got to give away a couple more hats and shirts and all kind of stuff coming up. But I want to start with the 25 class. We'll talk basketball, obviously, a lot as well, as Auburn remains the unanimous number one team in the country. I don't think there's any shock to that, but I'm going to keep putting that up there on our little bar as long as we get that title, because that doesn't happen very often. So also glad to have Coach Bruce Pearl on yesterday at lunch with us. I thought he did an outstanding job as always. We're just so blessed to have a guy that truly cares and takes time to spread himself around and market Auburn's program.
Let me jump in right there, though. Yep, I do want to say how great it is, to be part of the Lake Martin community and see how much Bruce Pearl has embraced that place, Brett, because, the Outlive T-shirt sales, the cancer fundraiser that he was very, very integral in getting started there with Russell Medical Center in Alexander City. And I know it's not only there, but it's throughout this region. But Outlive has grown into something that is really impressive and that is nationally known with Bruce Pearl. But he has very much embraced the Lake Martin community, living there on the lake, as many of the Auburn coaches have over the years. But Bruce Pearl's probably more than anybody else that I can remember as a coach jumped in head first and tried to help out. So this past weekend was very, very impressive to see pretty much the entire arena and what all went on with that, Brett. I'm a big Jimmy V guy that watched all that cancer deal, and now you've got Dick Vitale that's fighting it as well. So college basketball has always been involved in cancer research and for at least the last 30-plus years, and Bruce Pearl's engaged in that as well here in this local community.
Yeah, good to see that Dick Vitale's in remission.
Yep.
So, he's been fighting it, and looks like he's kicked its tail. So I also brought up, Hayes Hunter, Scott and Sheena, special family here in Tallapoosa County. Sheena was an ambassador for me, one of my first ambassadors at CAC a long time ago. So sorry, Sheena, I'm aging all of us here when I say all that, but she just a great person, her great family, and Scott, he's been off on trips with us fishing and just a good friend, and what their son went through and he's battled over this past year, how big of a part Auburn basketball was in that journey was great to see. We kind of talked about that a little bit yesterday as well, and our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to them and everybody that has to deal with this. We're all going to deal with it either directly or somebody in our family. That's a known fact. It's not, maybe. No, it's going to happen to you and your family. It's just a matter of when and how much it happens. It's just a deadly disease that none of us can run from. So hopefully technology and all continue to get better, and we can get a lot more people cured when they find out. But again, like he said, early detection's key. So go out there. If you think there's something going on, don't let it go. I'm the world's worst. I'm talking to myself here. I don't like going to the doctor. I try to do the things I have to do to stay out from a doctor's office, but he's right. If you find stuff early, you can get it knocked out. A lot of times if you wait too late, it is too late. So make sure you do that. Randy, Omar Madsen commits. We had Jason on yesterday morning, and he said, look, I feel like going to add Omar Madsen to the 25 class here for Auburn, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. The 3-star running back from Auburn High School, it was looking at a lot of schools, had a lot of different offers, and I think that's a quality pickup for Auburn here late in the cycle here for next week.
Well, keep a local athlete at home. Auburn High School has had some tremendous players roll through that program, back to Rashawn Evans and Reuben Foster, and I guess we can just keep going down the list. Marcus Ware. It's one that's local here. I'm in Auburn right now behind me, and you want to make sure that if you do get a talent that you want, that you find a way to keep them at home. And unfortunately, we went through a span there where if Opelika and Auburn and some other teams had really good players, they got out of the community, Brett. They end up at Alabama. They ended up at other places. Those two linebackers I just mentioned allowed to get out of the city of Auburn and head over to Tuscaloosa, and both had amazing careers over at Alabama. So be nice to just kind of shore up the boundary here behind us in Auburn, Alabama. And Omar had a tremendous season this year. He'll be an early enrollee. He's going through a program with head coach Keith Etheridge that you and I have been impressed with since his days at Leeds. His teams have always looked the part when they roll out on the field, and that means that he understands that weight room. And you and I had the good fortune of attending a press conference yesterday with another great coach here in the state of Alabama that has chosen to leave Montgomery Catholic and come and be the head coach at Benjamin Russell High School in Kirk Johnson. And there's just certain coaches here in this state that when you get somebody from their program, Brett, they're prepared. Oh, they've gone through a top tier weight program from early on in the middle school all the way up through the high school. And that's what they do here in Auburn. Keith Etheridge has continued that on and probably taken it to another level here in the Auburn community. And when you get an Omar Babson, you and I started turning our head last year when Jason went over and checked him out in the summer program, Brett, and he was getting some video of him squatting and bench max, and he's not a big guy. He's maybe a 5'9", 5'8", 5'9" guy. Probably does weigh 205. Is already very well put together, but really, really strong. Catches the ball well out of the backfield. A very good pickup for Auburn.
Anytime you get, like you said, I think you look at programs, especially one in your backyard. The Phoenix cities, those in East Central Alabama, are priority. The Benjamin Russells. We just talked about that. The first name out of Jason's mouth yesterday with all these star-studded players is Sadarian Morgan, and rightfully so. I mean, the number one and the number two wide receivers in the nation were in Auburn this past weekend. And, you look at what Hugh Freeze did last year with the Freeze 4. I know we would have loved to have had Ryan Williams. They were trying to make that the Freeze 5, but you got the Freeze 4. Well, Auburn's well on its way to putting together another outstanding wide receiver class. And, if you get, a player like Sadarian Morgan, who is 30, I think I want to stay there for a minute. You don't have to go to San Jose, California and make that kid just because of the ranking a priority. Yeah, if you can get a good kid from far off, that's great. But 90% of the time, if you concentrate and you got great kids around you within a 150-mile radius, that's generally where you're going to be more successful. Because, I'm not saying that you can't move across the country and make it work, and a lot of kids do, but I bet if you looked at an average, most people want to be closer to home for family reasons. Now, I know with NIL and all the different things have changed, and you can provide plane tickets and all for family members, but it's still travel. It's still an ordeal to go 5 hours somewhere in a plane because you got to get to the airport and you got to have accommodations to stay. If you're within 150 miles, I mean, that's drivable, and you can be right there and you can see more games. Whereas if your kid's way off somewhere. So my point is, there was a time, Randy, where we didn't concentrate on the kids in our backyard, like you said, and you allow to go across the state and have good careers. We have a great pool of talent year in and year out within 150 miles of Auburn, and I think that's what this coaching staff is doing such a great job of. If you go and look at the list of juniors, man, it was slap loaded with great players from the state of Georgia, and it's all right here. I mean, yeah, you want to go get a great kid from Ohio? Absolutely. You want to try to get a defensive tackle from Michigan? Go for it. But we got plenty of great talent right here to make hay.
Well, we talk about it with our work, Brett, and you're involved in these meetings too. But, being here in Auburn, you're as close to Atlanta as you are Birmingham. And you've got to mentally think that, So if you're in Tuscaloosa, there's a differing side of the state, and you can really lean on the state of Mississippi to be a little bit closer. But right here, man, you go to Columbus, Phoenix City, that area, that's 20 minutes up the road. You've got to shore those borders up. And when we've been really good, we have done that at Auburn. We've dove into the state of Georgia year in and year out and pick up, 5 to 7 that we can compete with Georgia on. And I think we're doing that. And Bruce Pearl's made hay over there. It's a little bit tougher now to go over to the state of Georgia and college basketball and pick up some of their best guys. They're trying to shore up their borders over there. But Auburn's doing it in football, and I'm applauding it. You and I love Auburn football. We love Auburn athletics, but our bread is buttered in the high school sports. And I'm very thrilled that when you look down at the list, Auburn's got 3 or 4 Thompson kids playing for us. I'm extremely excited to see that when Phoenix City's got their 3 or 4 every single year that are Division I talents that are going to sign with SEC schools, that we're in the mix on all of them. Doesn't mean we're going to get them. But way too long, we've just thrown up the white flag and said we surrender. We know we can't compete with them.
Going to Clemson.
Yeah, we've lost way too many lineman type that are coming out of that area there, and so I think we're doing a tremendous job. You can't say anything negative about Hugh Freeze and his staff when it comes to that. And I don't know if you noticed yesterday, but probably a good topic that we should discuss was, did you see how much Ohio State lost in their football program this year?
Yeah, I tweeted. I sent that over in a group to y'all last night. I didn't
$37 million loss.
Yeah, that's what I had that up to talk about here in just a little bit. I mean, look, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I mean, damn, somebody's going to have to. I mean, nobody had a better year than they did, right?
Yes. And so, you would say on the field. Yeah, of course they're the national champions, but
I mean, crap.
Can you keep that up?
Nearly $40 million.
Yep.
I mean, do you call that a success?
Well, from a business standpoint, it's not.
Okay.
From a trophy standpoint, it is, but can you sustain that? I think is the bigger question.
Well, the next part of that, and since you went ahead and brought it up, I'll just read this part. Where are they going to come up with a shortfall? Well, here it is. Reverse funds and past and future earnings are expected to cover the $37.7 million deficit. Ticket sales were lower again, contributing to the decline of revenue. And again, you got all these factors that come in. And so you go, oh, well, we got reserves that'll come. How many times you going to dip in the reserves? All of a sudden,
sounds like our national government to me.
Well, you dipped into the reserves to the point where there aren't none. And so you can't build off of that. You can't build off speculation. If you build off speculation, then you won't be in business very long. And I think the whole point of this is that nobody has been better than Ohio State. Nobody has looked at more of a giant than Ohio State when it comes to their athletic department, and they're operating at a $37.7 million deficit. Look, man, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole this morning, but there's nothing that's ever been more apparent outside of the noses on our face that something is broken and destroyed like college athletics right now. And it is a crying shame that the people in this country can't come together and figure out a way to fix it. And I'm going to tell you, it's in every single facet of our life right now. Greed has overcome this country, period. And I'm all for success. We all want to be successful. That's why we get up and do what we do every morning. We're not lazy. We bust our ass to do the things that we do. But at the end of the day, everybody can't make $4 million out of high school, right? So there has to be some type of regulation. And until you rein it in, we're going to keep having this conversation. We're going to keep getting pissed off about it. And ratings are going to continue to drop. And schools are going to continue to lose fans in the stands. And revenue is going to continue to go down. And expenses are going to continue to go up. So like it or not, argue about it or not, and come up with excuses and figure out ways to say, well, they deserve it and all that kind of crap. Well, you're going to deserve it right on out of business. That's what you're going to deserve. I'm telling you, this sport's not the same as what we grew up watching.
Well, you and I talked about this a couple of months back on the cost of being a season ticket holder. Let's just bring up Auburn. You know, if I get 4 tickets for my family, tailgate, all of the extra expenses, travel over for the full day, buy food in the stadium, just keep going, Brett. Keep going down. And now they want to, you know, add on these extra expenses to go to NIL, which they're expecting the fans to cover. You know, there is a certain point where you go, and, you know, I'm not complaining. The good Lord's been great to me. I've had way more success, honestly, in the business world than I ever expected at 18 years old. I'm going to be the first to say that. But how many people are out there that say, man, we just can't do that? And look, and trust me, it's conversations that we have in my household.
I was going to say,
do we really want to spend 10 grand this year, 15 grand this year to go to football? And maybe there's a lot of people that make but I think there are a lot of people that are going, man, this is getting way, way, way beyond anything that I ever expected. And maybe I'm wrong with that, but I think the numbers lean in that favor. And if you look at the bowl game attendance this year, terrible. You would watch. I mean, these are playoff games that were 60% full.
I mean, again, I broke that down for y'all about Texas making their second trip over to Atlanta to play Arizona State. How many times are they going to go to Atlanta? I mean, if they'd have made it to the national championship game, they'd have had to go again. Look, I'm all about it, and yeah, there's a percentage of people in this country that can afford to just go do whatever the heck they want to do. But the rest of us that, like you said, didn't have anything to do with being successful or blessed. It has something to do with having a brain and deciding, oh, yeah, I'll just go spend $5 grand this weekend on that. No problem. In a couple of weeks, I'll go spend 10. And right, a lot of people, majority of the people in this country live in debt. Let's be honest about it. And a lot of people that walk around out here are living on a false foundation. You can say whatever you want to say about it, but the stats show it. Just like our country, it's $39 trillion in debt. You know, why should we be held accountable when the country's not held accountable? Bottom line is that the spending is out of control, and the asking for money will never stop at this level. I mean, we talked about building a.
Now, tell me that Ohio State spend one more time. How did they spend that we lost $37 million? Where's that funding coming from?
Well, they said
future money.
Well, they said that they would make up the shortfall with reserve funds and future earnings that are expected.
Earnings from what?
Whatever their projection is. I mean, you know what I mean? You know, everybody has
the season's over is my point.
I guess next year. They're going to try to make up for but that's what we do.
It's unbelievable.
Well, you just carry it over. But guess what? In the meantime, they're asking for we've got coaches. Again, I'm not trying to get into this, and we've kind of gone down this dang rabbit hole again.
Well, you got to when the national champion football team went $37 million in debt this year to win a national championship, and they spent the most money, and everybody knows it. And they came in this state, and they grabbed. Well, Caleb Downs wasn't from here, but he was at Alabama. They came into this state, and they grabbed Alabama's best defensive player, right. And then they came from a high school player here in this state, and Quinshon Judkins, that scored 3 touchdowns in the championship game. Pike Road kid at Ole Miss, bought him away from Ole Miss. So I don't know what's a more pertinent conversation than we could have right now when you wake up the next morning and you hear the national champion lost $37 million this year. I mean, my gosh, it's wild.
Think about how much it costs to travel as much as Ohio State traveled in all these teams. We're just
do you remember that about 2013? I remember my dad making a big deal about this because Auburn made the decision to take the band out to the Rose Bowl and all of the expenses that were incurred there. But I think Auburn lost money in the 2013 season based off of that track. Am I right with that?
And that was just one trip.
Yeah.
Look at these teams in the playoffs. I mean, Ohio State had the first game at home, and they had to travel the next 3. I mean, that's 3 postseason games that you're having to travel, and your fans are having to travel, but you're having to cover the expense of planes and accommodations and all the stuff that goes with it. I don't know, man. we can go on and on. We got a lot of comments coming in. Let's see what it says. Kyle said, we'll bring this up. We'll talk to Coach Johnson, Coach Jeremiah Cobb. He was there. Yes.
Yes, he certainly did. Here, I'll give a little update on that. Kirk was at Montgomery Catholic for 11 years. He's been the head coach for the last 4. They only lost 2 games in those 4 years. They haven't lost a game in the last 2 years, but they lost in the semis in Jeremiah's junior and senior year in high school. Correct, Brett? So they only lost 1 game. He's 55-2 overall at Montgomery Catholic, and lost some heartbreakers in the playoffs. Cobb never won a state championship. They didn't win one until last year.
Right, last year and then this year. It's crazy how talented a group they've had. And, again, a team both times that they were expected to beat when Jeremiah Cobb was there. That just shows you sometimes it's not your night and it doesn't work out. But for all those that might not know what we're talking about, Kirk Johnson, the head football coach now at Benjamin Russell, that was announced yesterday. Just said, I'm almost positive Alabama had a $20+ million deficit too. DeBoer and staff's buyouts, Saban's $500,000 salary, the main factors.
Yes, they did. It was that transition year to a new coaching staff, and a lot of money needed to make that happen. So any of us, trust me, Auburn understands this better than most. When you've got turnover, those years that those turnovers happen and those carryover of contracts can kill you.
But to sum this up, really, at the end of the day, somebody's got to – we got to figure out a way to just quit spending and hemorrhaging money. Because if all of these bigger programs like this are going $35-40 million in debt to try to win a national championship, you got to start questioning why you're doing it anymore. This doesn't make sense. And when you have coaches that are taking millions of dollars out of their own salary to put in the collective, I'm sorry. Let me be selfish for a second. That ain't why I'm in the business, man. And I know I got to have a good team to keep my contract. But when you start pulling money out of your own pocket to put into the program, you're in it. We're all screwed up. This whole thing is messed up at that point. So that's what we've got going on. And we'll dive into some other stuff here. Randy, I know you're getting close to the end. I'll bring Faith in now. It's good to see Faith this morning.
Good morning.
Here. Hope everything's going well with you, Faith. It's a good time to talk about bunkers in Auburn on West Glen. Randy and I were talking about the TGL, Faith. I don't know if you've seen that yet on ESPN. If you have not seen that new golf league where they team up the pros and they play virtual golf in front of a crowd in an arena, it's unbelievable. It reminded me of bunkers immediately. So I know as that league will continue to grow and get popular, bunkers will continue to grow and get popular, and it already is popular. It's one of the coolest places in Auburn to go to have food and drinks and then play simulated golf and all the different games that you can take part in. So make sure you go check out bunkers in West Glen. And Randy always talks about how great the parking is, because in downtown, you're like, where am I going to park? Well, they've got 50 reserved parking spots in a parking deck right there beside their business. So parking is no issue. Getting there is no issue. So make sure you go and check out bunkers in downtown Auburn.
Well, I like to say go hungry. The last time Brett and I went for lunch, I felt sorry for Brett and the people that we were meeting with, because if I ate that much food, and Brett, I don't think ate all of it. I'm not knocking him, but if you did, you'd have to go take a nap. I'd have to go find me a chair and take me a nap, Faith. And I'm old now, so naps after a big meal are a must. When you look at me and Brett, we look like we need to go take a nap right now, and it's the 1st of the morning. But heading off to a meeting here in Auburn, Luke was asking me, where in the heck are you, Randy? And I'm right here on Opelika Road in Auburn in our new building, just working on it. So this is the only spot I can get in. The rest of the buildings in the works right now, and we hope to be in here in the next couple of weeks. It's right beside Laredo's, if you know where that landmark is, right up from the mall. So stop by and see us with Lee Apparel and Sign Source, customized apparel, screen printing, embroidery, promotional products with Lee Apparel. We can handle all of that. And then on the signage side, from start to finish, design, print production to installation. Also merging with a company right up the road from here, Sign Essentials, right up the road, that will be merging with our
I think we lost Randy's audio.
256-825-01. 256-825-0197 is our phone number. My phone is ringing off the hook on the other side, Brett. So I'm going to step aside, let you and Faith handle it, okay? Thank you, Faith. All right,
Bye,
bye-bye.
Randy.
See you, buddy. Faith, good to see you this morning. A lot to talk about.
How are you?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. A little foggy out there. My voice is a little better today.
Yeah, it sounds better.
Hey, I fought through it yesterday. I had a busy day yesterday. We named a new football coach at Benjamin Russell. And we talked a little bit about that this morning, which is huge. And then, of course, we had Coach Pearl on at lunch. So my voice got a little stronger as the day went on. And but yesterday morning with you and Jason, I was a little concerned. I'll be honest with you. I'm like, man, I think this thing is going to make it. So, but yeah, I guess the weather's a little bit more conducive for me this morning. I feel a little bit better. So all is good. Just kind of to recap, I think you may have seen a little bit of what we were talking about, but we talked about Auburn adding Omar Matson. We forget a lot of times that that second signing class, or not signing class, that second signing day comes up in February because the early signing period kind of dominates now. But Auburn does add another player, and it's a solid player from Auburn High School, a running back that 5'9", 200 pounds, and really, really solid. Low to the ground, low gravity, kind of some comparisons to Emmitt Smith type coming out of high school. So Auburn's excited to get a really good quality player from a high school right there in their backyard.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge having him come from literally right in their backyard and having him and his family here and everything like that, and especially a talented player like him.
And don't lose. I mean, I think we talked about that earlier too, making it a priority not to lose kids that are really quality players and keeping them close to home, because at the end of the day, it's good for their families. It's, for travel and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really good. I want to shift gears and talk about basketball. Auburn remains the unanimous number one team in the country. I told Randy and everybody this morning when I put our banner across the bottom, I'm going to continue to put that up there as long as we're the unanimous number one team, because that doesn't happen very often for anybody. I mean, It doesn't matter who you are, if you're Kansas or you're, North Carolina or whoever it might be, for you to garner all 62 first place votes 2 weeks in a row, especially in this day and age of college basketball, is really big. And so Auburn continues to have that title. Last night, you looked at a couple of games. A lot of people had gone to bed around these parts, but Iowa State lost a heartbreaker last night to Arizona in overtime. I know the score doesn't show that. It was 86-75, Arizona winning. But did you see how Iowa State got to overtime?
Yeah, Brees and I were actually just talking about that this morning. It was
a daggum half court, really beyond. It wasn't even at half court shot to tie the game.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. And one of his buddies goes to Arizona State not Arizona State, Arizona, where they were playing Iowa State. And he said that place was rocking.
Was texting with some buddies last night while that game was going on, which was crazy because it was late and we were all watching it. That's the scary thing about basketball is, I mean, Iowa State's clearly a better team.
Right.
And they had the lead and it looked like the game was over, and you throw up a half court shot that goes in, you go to overtime, then you lose. That's how crazy basketball is. And on any given night, that just shows you how hard it is to make a run and win a national title in basketball, because I keep going back to that Kentucky team that went 30-0 and they made it to the Final Four and they lost to Wisconsin in the semifinal. Faith, I mean, Kentucky by far was the best team in the country, and nobody would argue with that year, but they lost in the semifinal because they didn't quite play up to to par, and maybe Wisconsin played a little bit over their head, and the ball bounced against them that night, and they lost, and it ended their season at 30-1. And all the great Kentucky teams, that may have been one of the best, if not the best, and it doesn't get talked about very much because they didn't win a national title.
Yeah, I don't think it's really talked too much about how hard it is to keep that loss number on your record so low, and especially for them it was so late in the season,
Right.
before they had
the pressure that keeps
yeah,
building.
absolutely. And I mean, you're going to take a loss here and there, and that's why we've talked about so much wanting it to be earlier in our season than in March, like something like that. So
Right.
hopefully, we can come out on the other side of that. But yeah, I mean, Iowa State is easily a better team than Arizona, and they've proven that. But it just shows,
And they're on the road. I mean,
yeah,
again,
it just
crazy.
shows how impactful, being on the road and also just having a bad night.
Right. It can happen. Again, you just don't want it to happen at the wrong time.
No kidding.
And the law of averages in basketball are going to catch up with you. I mean, Bruce said it yesterday on our show. Look, you in this game, as many games as you play, something's not going to go your way one night. And like he said, we could easily be 2-4 as easily as we are 6-0.
Right.
I mean, and he's serious. I mean, he's right about that. I mean, when you look at how those games played out and how fortunate we were to kind of withstand teams making a comeback and being able to pull some key games out on the road. And he brought up LSU, which you and I will talk about here in just a minute. They are a team that will finish toward the bottom of the league, but as soon as you don't take them serious, you'll get beat because they're good enough to beat you on any night, especially if you're not playing your game, your best game. All right, so here's the top 10, Faith. Auburn, unanimous, 62 first place votes. Duke right there on their heels, though. Duke number 2, Iowa State's 3. They lost, so depending on what they do the rest of the week, they'll probably slide down another spot or two. Alabama number 4, Florida 5, Houston 6, Michigan State 7, Tennessee 8, Marquette 9, and Purdue is number 10. Look at this schedule, or this ranking. Auburn has played Duke, number 2. They've played Iowa State, number 3. They will play Alabama, number 4 and number 5. They've played Houston, 6. They have played Tennessee, 8. And then they've played Purdue, it's 10. And if you keep going on down, they will play Kentucky at 12. They will play Texas A&M at 13. They played Mississippi State at 14. I can keep going down the list. Ole Miss at 23, Vanderbilt at 24. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, It is unbelievable what a schedule and how good this league is this year.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the SEC, you've got, the most competitive, I think, league being the SEC and having, some of the strongest coaches, that have really made a difference in some of their programs and stuff like that. But I mean, outside of the SEC too, we're lucky that we've played some of those teams earlier in the season.
I agree.
And, we still got some big games coming up throughout the season when we go and play Kentucky and, some teams like that. But, I mean, we got lucky for some of the teams that we played earlier, and I think we're hopefully going to get better as a team, but also, with Janai being not 100%, hopefully he'll be, getting back to his health and all that kind of stuff to really, make some big wins coming up.
Well, I think what you said a minute ago gets kind of underscored a little bit. The coaches in this league. The reason this league's always been solid, but it's always been Kentucky, and then kind of somebody would challenge them, whether it be Florida or Alabama or Tennessee or us every once in a while or whoever. But from top to bottom, the SEC a few years ago made a commitment, and I remember Coach Pearl talking about this. And from an SEC office, they challenged all the schools to go out and say, go get a coach in this league. Go get a coach that's going to raise the bar at your school. We don't want to be looked at as a football conference only. We want to be a solid conference top to bottom in basketball too, both men and women's. And those schools did that, including Auburn. They went out and got a coach, and it's made all the difference in the world. I mean, Rick Barnes at Tennessee, Beard at Ole Miss, Chris Jans at Mississippi State. I mean, Mike White's over at Georgia now. He's turning their program around. You can just keep on going. Golden at Florida. I can just list all of them. I know South Carolina's at the bottom of the league right now, but this time last year, they were the number one team in the league. You're going to have some ebbs and flows, but overall, I think you hit the nail on the head, Faith. The reason this league is so much better year in, year out is because of the coaches. I mean, look at Nate Oates at Alabama. Auburn goes and gets Bruce Pearl. Alabama was going through some times with Avery Johnson and couldn't find the right coach. Trust me, we couldn't either. And now they found Nate Oates, and look where they are. They've got – I mean, Nate Oates took Alabama to a Final Four last year. Bruce Pearl took Auburn to a Final Four in 2019. Those are the only two teams, the last two SEC teams, to go to a Final Four. So, yeah, it's been a priority by the conference to go out and hire a leader and a coach, and now that's why you're seeing this league so strong, and it's not going anywhere. It's just going to continue to get better and better, believe it or not, if that's even possible. But I think also a point you make about Janai Broome not being healthy, fully healthy and coming back, and Coach Pearl talked about that yesterday, is that I think this was a great opportunity in the middle of the season for Auburn to learn how to play without their best player. And they navigated that stretch, Faith, and they won all of those games. And to me, that's only going to be beneficial down the road for them.
Yeah, I mean, not only, and I'm not looking too much into next year or anything like that, but, you know, if Janai is going to leave and he'll be gone, and, you know, CBM kind of has hopefully a decision to make on, you know, because he went to JUCO one year, if he's going to be able to have another year
right
at Auburn, and if he decides to take it or not. But I mean, we are losing a substantial, you know, player.
Majority. We lose the majority of your team next year.
Right. But if looking ahead like that, you see that, you know, we were able to compete and still win and still play in not only this conference, but also with, you know, just in this league of how great some of these teams are.
Right.
But it's showing what we've said all year, the depth in our roster and how, you know, there's so many other athletes that you can rely on, not just Janai. And now Janai does, you know, impact the team. Just when he's in it, he's hot, you know, like
right.
That's just, he's his own player. He's awesome. But I mean, you've got to see past that number one player, because at some point he's going to be gone, whether that's an injury or whether he's going to the draft.
Well, again, you know, when you have the best player in the country on your team, a lot of times players maybe kind of say, well, I don't have to do as much because I know, and that's not the case with this team. But then when you take him out of the mix, now they can't rely on that guy. They've got to replace 19 points a game. They got to replace his rebounding. They got to replace his assist. So now everybody else on the team had to increase their role. So, and I'll also say this, and we all do look ahead. It's just the way we do it. I want to cherish and soak in every moment of this season, because every season's unique, and we're really good right now, and we've got a lot of great things and a lot of great accolades, and we still got a lot of basketball to play. But it's hard not to look ahead and say, what does this team and this program look like next year? And I know, without 10 players. I mean, we got 10 seniors.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a lot of them, I mean, my point is this, I'm going somewhere with it, that I don't think, I've had a lot of people say, well, what are we going to do? I mean, we're going to go all in. I'm like, look, there's a plan for this. you might take a step back. It's natural to think that you're going to take a step back when you lose that many players. But I remember all of us saying, "Whoa, Alabama!" when Brandon Miller left and they lost in the, I think it was the Elite Eight or the Sweet 16 to San Diego State. I can't remember, a couple of years ago. And when that team kind of dissipated, we all went, "Well, crap, Alabama will come back to earth." Well, no, they didn't. They went to the Final Four the next year. So don't panic about what next year is going to look like right now, because yeah, there's going to be a lot of players leave, but you're also going to go out and get a lot of players. There's going to be a lot of guys that want to come to this program. So it's no different than what Kentucky and Duke and North Carolina and all of the blue bloods for the last 25 years have had to do with the one and done, Faith. They're used to that. They're used to bringing in 5 freshmen, starting them, and then all of them leaving to go to the draft and bringing in 5 new ones, and having a deep bench. So this is not new for coaches that are successful. So, yeah, we're going to lose probably a little bit more than average number of players off this team. But look, I trust nobody more than Bruce Pearl to come back and rebuild a roster in the offseason and have Auburn continuing to compete at the highest level. So Coach Pearl and I talked about that yesterday. We all, as sports fans, like right now, Auburn fans, all I hear them talk about is, man, can we get to the Final Four? Can we get to the Final Four? This team's great. And I hope we do. But we're so trying to fast forward through everything to get to that point, we're not enjoying the moment. And a lot of times we don't enjoy the journey because we're too focused on the end goal, which that's what you want. But then when we don't maybe achieve that, then it kind of diminishes everything that you've done all year because
rush through all of
right.
the good parts that we've had this season. Like, how often do you get to be the unanimous number 1 team?
I mean, I don't know that isn't it the first time Auburn's ever been unanimous?
I
number
think
1
so.
Last week when we were named, unanimous number 1.
So
now for 2 weeks.
Again, the second week in a row. Why can't we just enjoy this for a second? No, I fully agree with that. But I think the other thing that I really liked that you said was that people are going to want to play for Coach Pearl.
Of course they are.
People are going to want to play on this Auburn team.
Did Nick Saban lose a bunch of good players every year in football?
Yeah, but then, of course, you want to go and get coached by him. I mean, especially, too, if you go and you look at Jabari Smith Jr. and Walker Kessler playing in the league right now, like, you've heard those names so frequently and, like, just being rookies in the NBA and all that kind of stuff and how well they've performed and stuff like that. You've got to see how Coach Pearl has, I want to say last year when Dylan Cardwell, they were deciding on he was deciding if he was going to come back for another year or if he was going to go play overseas in Israel and that kind of stuff, because people were saying that he's not good enough to go to the NBA draft. And then you hear Coach Pearl talking now, and he's like, this kid is going to play in the league. Like, he is good enough to play in the NBA. And like, you look at his numbers and all that kind of stuff, he's good enough to go play. And I mean, I'm not saying one season of of his like playing improvement has really like,
oh, but it has.
It has. It 100%, I think, has. And I think, him and Bruce obviously have such a great connection and they have such a great bond. And I think when you watch Dylan, when Coach Pearl's talking to him, he's like a sponge, just absorbing every single piece of information that he's giving him. And I think that really makes a huge difference overall for his playing and, his potential after Auburn. And that just shows the kind of coach Bruce is and how he's just transforming players left and right.
Yeah, development. We talk about the lack of in football, and I thought you made some good points yesterday when we had Jason on. And you're spot on, Faith. We haven't developed a quarterback. And, the facts are the facts. I mean, people can say whatever they want to, and you can kind of spin it and sugarcoat it and whatever. And we don't do that on this show. It is what it is. I mean, But on the basketball side, you have had development. You've seen players get tremendously better from one year to the next and that's a mark of not only Bruce but this coaching staff and what they pour into this thing.
Especially like Dylan Cardwell wasn't his first year last year on this Auburn team,
right.
But
nobody ever really looked at Dylan. He was a big guy, but
right.
nobody ever really looked at him as they looked at him as a role player and a guy that could eat some minutes and had 5 fouls. I'm just going to be honest about it. Now you don't look at him like that
crowd
anymore.
And had the students
right.
behind him. Yeah.
Mr. Cheerleader, Mr.
Right.
Personality. But now he's an integral part. Like, we have to have him not only play but play well. He's part of the success of this team. And so, yeah, it's a credit to him. It's a credit to Chaney Johnson and the transformation, not only in his game, but his physical look from last year to this year. He's transformed as a person. So generally you just see players flourish and develop. And that's why other players gravitate to good coaches, and they're able to see the proof in the pudding. And Auburn will never, as long as Bruce Pearl's here, Auburn will continue to get outstanding players, and they'll bring them in, and they'll put emphasis on culture and chemistry. So when they go on the floor, they're ready to play and they're ready to perform. I don't want to bring up any bad things, but I think we have to. And we talked about it maybe just a little bit. I don't know that we talked about it at all actually yesterday. So I'm going to bring it up now. I do. And we've been talking about this all season off and on, but I still remain concerned about Ja'Kai Howard. And I think he's a phenomenal player, and I think his ceiling is unbelievable. And I know he's a freshman, and I know it's hard for every person is different, Faith. We're all made different. We all have different personalities, and we all handle things differently. You may handle a situation different than I handle a situation. Doesn't mean me or you are right or wrong or whatever. It's just how you do it. It's obvious that he's struggling because a lot of times when you bring in really top talent like a Tahad Pettiford, like a Ja'Kai Howard, and you put them on a team with other really good players, they're used to being the guy. And when you aren't the guy anymore, it hurts your ego a little bit, and you have to figure out a way to fit in, and you have to make the most out of your minutes, and you have to figure out a way to work yourself in to the flow in the rotation. Well, he's obviously struggled with that. And again, I hate to point it out, but his attitude and his body language on the floor make us gravitate to watching him and seeing that. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like a kid in Walmart with their parents, and you're walking down the toy aisle and they pick a toy up, they bring it over to mom and say, I want this. And she goes, no, we're not just buying a toy every time we go to Walmart. And the kid throws it down and pitches a fit and gets all pissed off and all this kind of stuff and is screaming and crying and making a scene. Well, it's really no different than that. That's what the vibe that's coming off. Now, you can say whatever you want to say about it, but he obviously got up and walked out, and I think Bruce made him leave in the second half of the game. I've read a couple different things. I didn't ask Coach Pearl about that yesterday. Didn't have time, didn't want to bring that up. But for me and you to talk about here, Faith, we've talked about it a bunch, and a lot of people are noticing it. It's a problem, and I hope it doesn't. I hope he works it out. I hope he fights through this. I don't want to see him leave. I don't. But right now, he just seems kind of isolated to himself and not part of this team.
So what I think about some of that is, if you want to be that guy and you want to be the best player on the team, you're going to have to go to a smaller school. You're not going to be able to play in the SEC. You're not going to be able to be a freshman on the number 1 team in the country if you want to be that guy. And I think the other thing is if you can't take the coaching and you can't take the criticism, and, if that's why he's storming out, I've read some things too. And if you can't take the coaching and say, yes, coach, yes, sir, okay, and apply it to your playing, you don't need to be playing this sport in such a competitive.
Well, how about don't tweet during the middle of the game? Okay.
That yeah,
Why do you
that
have your phone out in the locker room at halftime, tweeting out emojis and sending that message? If you want to say, if people out there are going, man, y'all are being a little bit hard on this kid, I'm like, well, no. I mean, you kind of set yourself up for the criticism that you receive in what you do and how you handle situations. Look, I'm sure J.P. Pegues came to Auburn from Furman thinking he was going to be a star.
he was going to be the best player on the team.
And I hate it for this kid. It's painful to watch him. And Bruce Pearl, you could tell, wanted him to be a major contributor, but he's not even a factor now. There's something mentally off with his shot and his game where I don't know. And when you get the yips in sports, Faith, you know this, it's hard to get rid of them, whether it's making a throw from shortstop to first base or, shooting a basketball. And I can't remember the kid's name off the top of my head, but one of the top draft picks in the league was from Washington, University of Washington a few years ago. And he goes to the Philadelphia 76ers. He couldn't throw it in the ocean from the beach. He got the yips. I mean, it happens. And so, but you know what I do see J.P. Pegues doing? Sitting on the bench, cheering everybody on and going and not going, man, I can't believe because he was a great player at Furman last year. I mean, I think he averaged 17, 18 points a game. He was all conference. He was a big pickup at the time in the portal for Auburn. And it's not working out. But, Ja'Kai Howard, I think we're teaching everybody to not be patient in this world. We've got to have everything right now, immediately. And if I don't
want it.
Right. And if I don't get what I want right now, then I'm going to pout about it. I'm going to leave. So I don't know.
That's what NIL has done.
It absolutely has.
Oh, I'm not getting the playing time. I'm going to have to go to another school where they're going to pay me more and they're going to promise me playing time. The truth of the matter is if you're not good enough to be playing on, for us, the number one team in the country,
right?
Why don't you want to learn from them? Why? Like you said, there's 10 seniors. They're going to be leaving. They're going to be, their shoes are going to need to be filled. How are you just going to sit there and pitch a fit and all that kind of stuff like that when if you do choose to stay and you get the opportunity to play next year, how do you think everyone else is going to look at you or view you?
Well, I was going to say, you're still out there auditioning for other places to go. Like if it's the NBA or if it's another school down the line or whatever, your attitude and your body language, you're still in audition mode from a professional standpoint. And okay, so what, you're good. If they're seeing that at Auburn, how many coaches are going to say, well, I know Bruce
that at my school.
Yeah, I know Bruce Pearl. I know what kind of person he is. I know what kind of coach he is. And that guy's acting like that there. Why do I want him? So from a mindset standpoint, I think he's a high flyer and he's an electric player and he loves the spotlight. And I've already said this, and if I'm off, I'm off. But it's like if he's getting his 3 or 4 highlight dunks a game and he's out there, revving the crowd up, the end result doesn't matter if we win or lose. He got out of it what he wanted. That's my perception of him right now. It may be off, and I hope I'm wrong, but that's based on body language and the way he's played and the different things that have happened up to this point this year. It's just a constant issue, always going back to the plane fight with Jaheim, to the suspension or whatever they did and sat for a few games, to the video on Twitter of him kind of not playing real hard and going over to the corner and not celebrating other teammates. And, it's just always been something. And look, it's just like in baseball. If you're scared of the baseball, it's going to find you. If you have the bullseye or the spotlight on you because your attitude hasn't been good, the spotlight's going to continue to show on you because people now are watching for you. They're looking to see what you're going to do next. So the only person that can correct this is him. I think that's kind of what Bruce Pearl said in the post game without saying it. He's like, look, we had a couple conversations. I think he's going to be fine. But I think, Faith, only you can change your own attitude about things. Same for me. Same for Ja'Kai and everybody else in this world. He's got to figure it out himself.
You can't have a self player on a team like this. And if you want the spotlight when you're not on the court on a team like this, it's going to be for most likely a negative reason. And
that's right.
What has he shown? He has not been on much. So it's a negative reason that his name is always being talked about right now. And that's
not what you want. You don't want that. All right.
At least you shouldn't want it.
No, yeah. I don't know anybody. that wants to be labeled as, somebody that is a cancer or somebody that's always the problem, or there's always negative energy when their name is brought up. Kyle said Markel Fultz. That's exactly right, Kyle. I appreciate the help there with my Alzheimer's moment this morning. Kid from Washington that went to the kid couldn't shoot. I mean, you drafted. Obviously, he was a good player, and he got the NBA, and for whatever reason, he got the yip. So Jeff said probably end up transferring to Bama. So be it. Look, Aiden Holloway transferred to Alabama. It's working out for him. It's not like we didn't know he was a good player. We picked him. He came to Auburn. And I don't know why it didn't work out. I don't know if it was immaturity on his part. I don't know what it is. Everybody can say whatever they want to say about it. But look, he moved on to Alabama. Maybe he's found himself. Maybe he is in a better situation up there with a system that fits him better. I don't know. That's all speculative. Maybe he just figured it out. You ever thought about that? Sometimes we overthink all this stuff. Maybe if he'd have stayed one more year at Auburn, he would have figured it out here. But again, in the transfer portal era, when things aren't quite going the way you think they ought to go, the easy thing to do is to go, okay, I'm leaving. And I'm going to go over here. Sometimes it works out. A lot of times it does not. Period.
The last thing I'll say about Ja'Kai is that doesn't mean that he can't fully change his attitude.
Absolutely.
And everything.
Absolutely.
We've watched Chad mature over the last year.
We sure have.
It's kind of a fully different story, but at the same time, he's had a hot head, and now he's able to kind of keep his composure and all that kind of stuff. So people are, wanting to get underneath his skin, and they're really trying to take him off and get him upset. And he's able to come back with a calm, cool, collected composure and just let his playing do the talking. So that doesn't mean, Ja'Kai Howard won't be able to get it together. He's still young. He's still, just coming out of high school and stuff like that. So hopefully, he will be able to kind of get it together.
I totally agree. Again, you don't give up. And that's not what we're saying. What we're doing is talking about what we're watching right now. We're not casting stones. We're not doing any of that stuff. We're pulling for him. He's on our team. We want him to be the best player he can possibly be here. We want him to contribute. We want him to be here the full time. But again, it goes back to we all have to make those individual decisions for ourselves. And again, we always forget that this is a young kid in an environment that he hasn't been in before, and he's trying to adjust and adapt. And people handle things differently. So you always have to kind of put that disclaimer out there as well. We all handle things differently, and hopefully with the great teammates he has around him and the great coaching staff he has coaching him up, that he'll get better, and all that'll change. Romulus said, thoughts on the new Benjamin Russell head coach. Will the QB from Catholic come with him? Love the show. Appreciate you, Romulus. First of all, Kurt Johnson to me is one of the best coaches in the state. His record proves it. But not only just his record as a head football coach at Catholic, but he's got a long pedigree. He's been part of numerous staffs at Catholic, and Catholic just didn't start being good the last couple of years. They've been good for a long time. And, it's just what comes out of his mouth. And it's when you talk about somebody in the coaching world around other coaches, and everybody just unanimously talks positive about what a great person he is and what a great plan that he has and how he implements that and gets the kids to buy in. So I'm excited for what he's going to bring to Benjamin Russell. I know Catholic's upset that he left, and rightfully so. I mean, he talked about that yesterday in the press conference. When you've been somewhere 11 years and you build relationships and you have a lot of life events happen early in your life while you're at that school, it's always going to be a special place. But, you also can get comfortable in places. And I don't think he's a guy that wants to get comfortable. And I think he wants to see if he can do the same thing that he did at Catholic in a different place. And so Benjamin Russell historically is a top 10 program all time. And I think that's why he chose and saw this job and wanted to do that. As far as the quarterback, I don't know that for sure. I've heard speculation that he may be transferring. Kid was phenomenal last year as an underclassman. So we'll see what happens there. But only time will tell on that. Top 3, if not top 2 coach in the state based on resumes, his talent acquisition ability to get in from kids is elite. Great hire. Hey, appreciate all the comments there, Romulus. Yep, good hire. I think it's going to be a good time here in Out City with Coach Kirk Johnson. And, he's going to be bringing some coaches with him as well. So I know there's some excitement about that as well. But all right, Faith, anything else you want to add this morning? Kind of went down the rabbit hole there in basketball, kind of talking about the chemistry of this team. But tomorrow we'll talk more about the game as Auburn will prepare to play LSU on the road tomorrow. Again, from a record standpoint, LSU not very good. But from a you better be ready to play standpoint, you better be ready to play because on any given night, anybody can beat you.
Yeah, and tickets are still as low as $7 over there. So if you want to make the drive and go over there.
Are we road tripping? I actually got to go north tomorrow instead of south.
Yeah, that is true. I will be road tripping to the game this weekend at
Awesome.
unanimous. So
oh yeah, of course you are.
Yep.
Absolutely you are.
So I will have to let you know all about it on Monday when
right. Well, you got to go bring a win back now.
I know
you got a lot of pressure on you going to Ole Miss.
I'll be the only one in the student section probably with an Auburn shirt on.
Yeah, don't let them throw stuff at you. Don't let them heckle you too bad.
Hey, I'll
you'll represent.
Let the playing do the talking.
There you go. There you go. That's the way to do it. All right. Absolutely. That's how we handle ourselves, right? All right. So I'll take one more comment here before we get off. Another one from Romulus. Thoughts on Caleb Spivey. Heard some SEC schools started. Well, Auburn's already offered him. Oregon's offered him. Vanderbilt offered him yesterday. I think he's a 10th grader, big-time defensive end at Benjamin Russell. Again, this team's got a lot of talent. I mean, Kirk Johnson's walking into, I heard a lot of people go, well, he's leaving all this talent at Catholic, and he is. They've got a great team down there. But he's also walking into a team that's got Cedarian Morgan, Caleb Spivey, Elijah Johnson. I can keep going on down the list of players on this team that are really, really good players, and they're D1 players. So, I think Caleb Spivey, I'll just kind of let the cat out of the bag. Caleb Spivey's a big Auburn fan. And so Auburn was one of the first. I think Florida has offered him as well. I know he's made a couple of trips to Florida and seems to like Florida. Again, you can say what you want to about Billy Napier. Billy Napier turned it around, and I expect Florida to do pretty good this year with DJ Lagway. So I think their recruiting will continue to pick up. So I would like to say if I had to put a crystal ball on it right now for Caleb, I think he would end up at Auburn. But we'll see. He's still got a couple more years in high school that we'll continue to watch him get better and grow. So he is going to be a phenomenal. He's already a great player, but by the time he's a senior, man, I don't know how big this kid's going to be. He is going to be a phenomenal high 4-star, maybe another 5-star here in Alex City. So it's going to be fun to watch. But yeah, it's going to be good. Yeah, I think Auburn is definitely the team to beat for sure. He's got a tremendous upside. All right, Faith, we can't thank our sponsors enough. Sensagreen for air that's cool and clean. Call them Sensagreen. They're the carrier experts here in the state of Alabama. So make sure you call on them. I, again, can't say enough about them joining our group right out of the gate. Scout Program Management for all your construction management needs. Make sure you call on Scout Program Management. I mean, again, they take you from start to finish, the pre-construction stage, all the way to the finished product when they hand the keys off. They specialize in educational projects, so schools, renovations, things like that. Bunkers located on West Glen. Hey, Faith, you got to watch that golf league. You got to go back. I'll send you a link to it so you can watch it. It is crazy.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
It is a lot of fun. So, hey, and won't be long before we're at Bunkers again on location. Actually going to reach out to that group today, and because I know it's coming up on another opportunity for us to be there live. So, Faith, get your golf clubs ready. We'll be hitting a little bit in the simulation bays when we go over to Bunkers. But make sure you go out to Bunkers on West Glen. Check them out. Outstanding food at lunch, great dinner menu as well, great bar, and then a great place to hang out with your friends and family as well and play some simulated golf. Sign source for all your sign needs, installation from yard signs all the way to big old huge signs on the road to advertise your business. They can handle it for you. And Lee Apparel for all your apparel needs, hats, promotional products, all that kind of stuff, all these giveaways. You know, when you go to a business and you get a pen, you go, oh man, that's a great pen. You know, it comes from places like Lee Apparel and promotional products. They didn't have that made in-house. They have to call on somebody to do it. So call on Lee Apparel and promotional products, and they can get you some cool swag for your business as well. Faith didn't have the swag going on today with the hat. She got so many compliments, and I got scolded yesterday from whoever the heck Desperado was for not having your name in the description on YouTube. So I changed it and I got that up there. I can't think of everything. So
Thank you. Well,
I did
I'm
get you
glad.
added. So
Glad that it's there.
So now you're official. You're in the description of our YouTube bio. So, but again, we thank everybody for watching every single day, and all the great comments. Continue to spread the word and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, we can't say enough about that. We continue. Again, I think we added 3 or 4 more this morning. So we're getting close to 600, Faith, and we're going to be giving some more stuff away when we get to 600, and then to 7, and then to 8. We need to set a goal, see if we can get to 1,000 subscribers before the summer.
Yeah, I think we can.
I think that's doable. I mean, I really do. So, but we got to have help from all of. So, Desperado, if you're looking at our bio and you're worried about Faith's name not being in the bio, go spread the word for us and help us get to 600 subscribers.
Reese's back there saying, "Yeah, please do it."
Yeah, she's embarrassed that we're not at 600 yet. You see, she's got her paws over her head. She's like, I can't believe y'all aren't at 600 yet. I mean,
there she goes.
That was a little bit of a head shake, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, everybody have a great rest of the day. And again, we appreciate it. And we'll be back with you bright and early in the morning. Faith and I will be with you at 8 a.m. So make sure you make plans for that as we'll preview Auburn LSU. Everybody have a great day. War Eagle, everybody.
War Eagle.